Do you have the freedom and security you need? Do you have a plan B? Invest in yourself and your future by holding citizenship of Dominica. The Nature Isle of the Caribbean offers you wealth protection, greater business and educational opportunities to secure the life you want. Citizenship by investment. Become a citizen of the world. Become a citizen of Dominica.
Welcome to the Business Day Dialogues in partnership with CS Global Partners. I'm Joanne Joseph. Lovely to be with you today. I just want to remind you that this is a pre-recorded session, but you're welcome to share your questions in the live chat, and a representative from CS Global Partners will be available on the live chat as this broadcast goes out to respond to your questions on behalf of our panel. So today we're tackling the topic Reclaiming the Future, Thrive in 2022 with the safety and stability of the second citizenship in Dominica. Now, the thought of second citizenship has been on the minds of many South Africans in recent times. I was looking at some of the latest studies last night. They actually show that immigration patterns around the world have actually picked up. But how to choose the country you might want to invest in when there are so many attractive options on offer? So today we're hoping to give you some insight into an investment destination that's often not spoken about, the territory of Dominica. Hopefully by the end of our webinar today, you'll have a good idea of Dominica's strengths and its outlook for the future, the advantages of citizenship by investment there, what makes Dominica so attractive to South African investors, the key requirements of the Citizenship by Investment program, and the application process and eligibility criteria. Now, let me introduce you to the eminent panel talking us through the facets of this important discussion. Dr. the Honourable Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, who's been in office since 2004, is with us. In addition to being the Prime Minister, he also serves as Finance Minister, the Education, Sports and Youth Affairs Minister, the Foreign Affairs Minister, and he's also the political leader of the Dominica Labour Party. Welcome to you, sir. His Excellency Ambassador Emmanuel Nanthan is Director of the Citizenship by Investment Unit. Ambassador Nanthan has headed up the CBI unit in Dominica since 2015. He's got extensive experience in diplomacy and international affairs, and he's also the Ambassador at Large for the Prime Minister. Great to have you with us. And Ms. Micha Emmett is CEO of CS Global Partners. It's a world-leading legal advisory that specializes in intelligent citizenship solutions. She's a dual-qualified attorney in South Africa and the United Kingdom with years of practice in citizenship, residence, immigration, and foreign investment law. Welcome to you all. Really good to have you on the program today. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm going to start with you. We know Dominica is a fellow Commonwealth nation, but many of us in South Africa know little else about your country. Where is it for starters?
Well, first of all, the Commonwealth of Dominica is one of a group of islands in the heart of the Caribbean Sea. We are a small nation with a population of approximately 72,000 people, and our official language is English, but we also speak French Creole as well. And thanks to our geography, we enjoy very close relations with our neighbors, Canada, the United States, and also the European Union. Our currency, the Eastern Caribbean currency, is pegged against the US dollar. Dominica is also one of the most unique and diverse landscapes in the Caribbean. Quality, which earned us the title of the Nature Isle of the Caribbean, and I think some people even say the Nature Isle of the world, because of our pristine natural environment. And I would also say to you that we love South Africa as well in Dominica. So we look forward to welcoming our brothers and sisters from the great nation of South Africa.
Mr. Prime Minister, I mean, that gives us a very good idea of the setting of your country and the geography of it. But I was looking at some of the most exquisite pictures of it this morning. You've touched on just how beautiful it is. Tell us a bit more about the climate, perhaps the landscape, the culture, the lifestyle there.
Well, our country hosts lush rainforests, waterfalls, and natural hot springs in abundance. And we have the world's second largest boiling lake. So it's a very important feature for us. Preserving our island's pristine climate and biodiversity is extremely important to us in Dominica. Because 45% of our country is protected as a natural forest reserve. by law. And also, we boast of having a significant percentage of our seascape protected by law in terms of a marine reserve to encourage scuba diving, whale watching, and also enjoying the lushness of our seascape. Thanks to our commitment to safeguarding Dominica's natural environment, we are becoming known as one of the top destinations for ecotourism worldwide. All of our core resorts are built to accommodate our visitors and are constructed in line with sustainable principles, such as Secret Bay Resort. It's a boutique resort owned by a local Dominican, which received the Green Globe certification, one of the highest standards of sustainability worldwide. And in 2020, we also earned a spot as one of Condé Nast Travelers' top destinations to visit, and we are consistently recognized as such by international tour operators and media houses. And those who come to Dominica, and we look forward to welcoming our friends from South Africa, will be deeply impressed by the reception they receive. Dominica is known to be an extremely welcoming and warm nation, and anyone who has ever visited our country, and indeed anyone who has obtained citizenship of Dominica under the Dominica Citizenship by Investment Program will tell you that they were met with open arms and treated like they were born in Dominica and have been living in Dominica for several years. So Dominica is a wonderful country, I must say. We also are very strong on issues of climate change, and we are one of the world leaders in advocating on fighting climate change. And Dominica has declared to the world, in 2017 we declared that, we would like to become the world's first climate resilient nation, recognizing the impact of climate change on our islands and our countries, and the need to build greater resilience to mitigate against the impact of climate change. And we'll continue to advocate this on behalf of the entire world, because it is really impacting the entire world. And of course, the great nation of South Africa is also suffering from the impacts of climate change as well. So we're joining forces with all nations in our efforts to fight climate change. And Dominica is a peaceful country. You could walk the streets with no fear of your safety. And it is a all-encompassing nation. It respects diversity. It respects ethnicities. It respects races. It respects religious freedom. We maintain the rule of law, and we also recognize the need for all nations to self-determine. But so we are a small nation, but we have a huge heart.
I think I can feel that coming through, Mr. Prime Minister. And of course, I think you've touched on things that are very important to South Africans at the heart of their beliefs as well. Your Excellency, Ambassador Nanthan, let me bring you in here next. I mean, perhaps you could explain to us what citizenship by investment is specifically and how it works in comparison to other programs on offer.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and good morning again. Citizenship by investment really is basically an investment program that allows someone to invest in another country, and for that investment is awarded citizenship of that country. The program has been around for a long time, and much longer than we care to think. But in Dominica, a successful applicant who meets Dominica citizenship requirement, we offer one of the best standards of living in the Caribbean, with low crime. We have very good economic activity, political stability, and a rich investment opportunities that allow investors to really expand their investments. And the funds for the program are channeled to bolster the national economy and to attract foreign direct investments.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, I understand Dominica's citizenship program has existed since 1993. You've touched on what makes the program so attractive, I suppose, for ordinary people who'd want a second citizenship there. But talk to me particularly about investors, business people, and their families. Why would they want to invest there?
Dominica's Citizenship by Investment Program has many attractive features. Established in 1993, it is one of the longest standing in the industry. which reassures investors from across the globe that the process of obtaining citizenship is valid and reliable. It is a path many others have taken before. The process is straightforward, the requirements are straightforward, which simplifies the processing of an application and makes applying widely accessible. It is one of the most time-efficient routes to citizenship in the world. We boast of quick turnaround times, which are set by regulation, but the turnaround time does not affect the due diligence process. And for us, due diligence, knowing who our applicants are, is paramount. They say there's no compromising on this aspect. And it is important for everybody in the industry to recognize the importance of due diligence. Us as a nation, we have an obligation to the international community, to our fellow states, global states, to protect the security and to maintain the security. And also it's important for those who are applying to know that their fellow applicants, irrespective of where they come from, are bona fide people, so that the quality of the citizenship, quality of the passport which they'll eventually apply for and use to travel would not be called into question. And so Dominica prides itself on the due diligence process. This is why we have multi-layers of due diligence through that process. And we're very grateful for the partnership which we have with the international community in assisting us with due diligence processes, and also our own internal due diligence processes as well. So when you apply for Dominican citizenship, we assure you that yes, you'll go for a rigorous process, but at the end of the day, you'll be better off as a citizen of Dominica, because your fellow citizens will be people of high repute who would have applied and who would have gotten through the process. The other important thing for an applicant is that both the immediate and extended family members of an investor may be included. We recognize that there are large families, there are extended families in the world, and they're dependent on the breadwinner in these families, and we need to facilitate these people. And we try to keep families together, not break them up. Some have Dominican citizenship, others do not have, and they're unable to travel together. And so we try to keep the families together so that your spouse can be added, your children can be added, siblings, parents, and grandparents. And this stems as a reflection of its wide inclusivity. We want to ensure that we keep the family together. There's inclusion and promoting the Citizenship by Investment program as a family-centered, family-oriented program. And so the Dominican Citizenship by Investment program ensures safety and transparency. I cannot repeat this enough, or the issue of transparency, the issue of accountability, and the issue of due diligence, because this is what sets us apart from the rest in terms of the robustness of our program. While this program brings tremendous economic and social benefits to our country, we are not prepared to compromise it by flouting our due diligence processes. And so we continue to review, because this is a dynamic industry. Challenges come up, and when they come up, we either preempt them or we take corrective action where necessary. But at the end of the day, once you go through this process and you become a citizen of Dominica, there are so many attendant benefits to having citizenship for the Commonwealth of Dominica.
I think you've touched on a couple of important things there, Mr. Prime Minister. Many South Africans do want to immigrate with the option of being able to include extended family as well. And of course, the rule of law and observing those legalities is so important. Something else that we've been grappling with in this country is, of course, the issue of small businesses. We're encouraging entrepreneurship in our country in order to grow employment. Now, how would a Dominica citizenship benefit South Africans looking to diversify and expand their businesses in your country?
This is a very good question, and it's a question that comes up every time we have an interview on Citizenship by Investment Program. South African citizens who become citizens of Dominica through the Citizenship by Investment Program enjoy the same rights and benefits granted to Dominicans, which facilitates investment and business opportunities. So there will be no differentiation between a South African who becomes a Dominican citizen through the Citizenship by Investment Program, or myself who was born in Dominica and is a Dominican citizen. Our constitution does not differentiate the two. We treat everyone the same. So you will have the same protection in Dominica as I do as Prime Minister of my country. You will be afforded the same respect by our constitution. If you buy property, if you purchase property in Dominica, it will be protected by law. The government cannot nationalize your company, and if for a reason or the other the government has to acquire your private property, it will compensate you in accordance with market forces. And if you're not satisfied with the government's offer, you can in fact take the government before the courts. And people have done so, and people have been successful. And there's no difficulty in doing so. And of course, if you have your business here in Dominica, your investments here in Dominica, there are also trade benefits which you enjoy. We have market access to the European Union in terms of duty-free access to the European Union based on economic partnership agreement. We also have duty-free access to the UK markets. So if you come to Dominica, you invest, you can have access to those markets in terms of the export of your goods and services. And I just want to say to you that there are a few South African citizens who have acquired citizenship from Dominica and who are resident in Dominica. And they own properties, they drive and they walk the street just as I do, or any other citizen. And there's absolutely no discrimination whatsoever. So it is a place that I believe that if businessmen are looking for additional opportunities, they're looking to expand, it is a place that I believe that they should go and apply for citizenship. And of course, our currency is pegged against the US dollar, and you can register your business, as I said, and conduct business here. And our geography, where we're geographically placed, affords you the opportunity for mobility, and also our country affords a tax efficient system of structuring your wealth. We do not tax your global income. We only provide income tax on income generated within Dominica, but income generated out of Dominica, we won't tax it. So if someone from South Africa applies to Dominica and you have investments in South Africa, we won't tax those investments in South Africa. No, this is for the South African government to deal with. But we will not tax you here in Dominica. But if you do business in Dominica, you will certainly be subjected to income tax. Otherwise, we do not tax globally earnings at all. So there are a wide range of business opportunities, education-wise. The children would have access to education if you physically relocate to Dominica. Access to healthcare, we have dramatically improved our healthcare program here in Dominica. So you'd have access to some of the best medical minds and brains, and also equipment and technology. So it is a place for us to consider to become a citizen, and I assure anyone who does that you will not regret it at all.
I'm sure you'd agree, Mr. Prime Minister, South Africans are quite astute investors. We're quite discerning about our investment choices. I want to look at the economic outlook for a moment. We've already seen IMF projections that your country will grow its GDP by 5% yearly from this year to 2026. Can you just please give us an overview of Dominica's economic outlook, specifically post the COVID pandemic, which we know has hit so many countries so hard?
I agree with you that South Africans are astute investors. So we're very mindful of this. Dominica has made significant progress in 42 years of independence. And before the outbreak of COVID-19, at the beginning of 2020, the IMF forecasted that Dominica's economy was set to expand by 5.5% and 4.5% and 3.5% in the years 2020, 2021, and 2022, respectively. The IMF's growth projection for Dominica in 2020 was 2.1%. And this was a higher growth rate than our sister nations within the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. Only 2 years after losing 226% of our GDP due to Hurricane Maria in 2017, our economy had positively recovered, and in 2019, we witnessed an economic growth rate of 9% in Dominica. Just 2 years after a hurricane, with 226% of our GDP affected. And the Dominican Citizenship by Investment Program has played a key role in boosting our economic outlook post Hurricane Maria, and was a visible and reliable source of revenue to finance our rebuilding efforts. And so we appreciate the investments of the Citizenship by Investment Program. Now, one of the things that a number of things that we're doing here in Dominica to ensure growth is, one, having a sustainable debt to GDP ratio, which is important for investors. No investor wants to come to the country where the debt has overridden the government, and government is unable to service its debt. So we maintain this in Dominica. We have strong fiscal policies. We believe that every nation should have strong fiscal policies. Strong fiscal policies bring stability to a country, and insofar as its finances, and thereby extension to the private sector. That you have a stable economy, you have a stable fiscal policy, and therefore your investments can be protected. And so the focus by the IMF is consistent with what we're doing, and one can appreciate that, notwithstanding the pandemic, for the IMF to project that growth rate for any country, small or large, is a significant achievement, a very significant achievement. And so we continue to invest heavily in education, invest heavily in agriculture, invest heavily in youth empowerment and the empowerment of women also in particular, because this is a very important grouping in our society that usually gets overlooked by policymakers. Women in their own right, and ensuring that they can have access to education, they can have access to loans to establish small businesses, and that they can live independent lives. And it's important for us in Dominica, and we continue to invest heavily in women. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that the women are in fact taking over my country in terms of leadership positions in the parliament, in the cabinet, in the public service, in the private sector. And it speaks to the focused attention which my government has placed on in investing in women and empowering women. Of course, we invest heavily in healthcare, as I mentioned earlier, building our primary healthcare capacity, building our secondary and tertiary healthcare capacities as well, training more doctors, training more nurses, training more healthcare providers, improving the infrastructure, modernizing the infrastructure, enhancing the equipment and the type of services which we offer to our citizens and visitors to our country. And also the road network and modernization of the ports and seaports and airports. And so it is testament to political stability, to also a country and a government that understands the need to support private sector investment and to ensure that we put in place policies and programs and systems to facilitate investments, but very importantly to ensure that investors can see a profit on the investments. And so we're very pro private sector investment as a government, as a country, and we have a very generous offer of incentives to investors to our country, whether you become a Dominican citizen or not. So any South African, whether you apply for and you become a Dominican citizen or not, your investment in Dominica will be protected by law, by our constitution. And so for those who may not want to apply for citizenship, and that's fine, and we understand this, we also welcome you to Dominica to visit, to reside, or to invest.
It's very tempting to rush off and buy a ticket there right now, Prime Minister, I have to tell you. Ms. Emmett, I'm going to bring you into the conversation because we really need to hear from you. You're interacting widely with South Africans on a daily basis. Are there frustrations that single citizenship South Africans are facing in the country right now?
So, Joanne, I think South Africans are truly patriotic. However, there are a number of issues that have come to light over the last few years. And, let's remind ourselves of COVID, the South African government's prohibitive and strict lockdown rules, South Africa being discriminated against with the travel ban in December, the growing political tensions, the protests, the failing infrastructure, such as the energy crisis that we face on a daily basis. So you have more and more South Africans asking the question, well, what next? And therefore, we've seen a growing demand and a growing awareness and desire to secure what we like to call a plan B. Dominica fits well into actually providing that option. And then from an economic point of view, South Africa's market is constantly being devalued. So many South Africans are questioning, what's the worth of being a South African in the eyes of the rest of the world? And therefore, the astute South African investor is looking for options, opportunities, and basically, hedging their risks.
It's interesting. I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of options that are potentially on the table right now, Ms. Emmett. Why do you believe gaining dual citizenship through this citizenship by investment program is a route for South Africans to seriously consider?
Well, as you know, second citizenship is an insurance policy against the future of uncertainty, the plan B. But why Dominica specifically? Well, it's quite simple. You can sit in South Africa and obtain Dominica citizenship without having to travel there, without sort of the headache of doing a long-term residence, physical residence period. There's no need to learn a new language or have a particular skill set. It's quite a seamless, straightforward, and effective time solution for someone who's looking to diversify and get a second citizenship. So I think that's quite important. But I'd like to draw the viewers' attention to a report that we launched yesterday, the World Citizenship Report. And in there, it assesses the global citizen's perspective on, why you would want to take a second citizenship. And it's underpinned by 5 motivators. And the main motivator is safety and security. And interestingly enough, Dominica in the Caribbean rates #1 under that motivator. So again, it clearly is an excellent solution. It ticks all the boxes. And just to reiterate, you don't need to leave South Africa in order to apply and become a citizen of Dominica.
I think that's a very important point to underline. Your Excellency, Ambassador Nanthan, what sort of investment options are available to applicants under the program? Just please talk us through their relative benefits.
Under the Dominica Citizenship by Investment Program, applicants are allowed to become citizens through 2 options, really. One is a one-time, one-off non-refundable contribution to the government fund or the Economic Diversification Fund, or 2, they could invest in a real estate. Contributions option is a direct and secure option for acquiring citizenship. It entails a single, straightforward donation as received by the government. Upon receipt of the donation, the government issues a certificate of naturalization, and that is what makes you a Dominican. Whereas a potential benefactor of the real estate option is that one could invest in a real estate. That fund, that investment would be your investment, and you could resell that investment after 3 or 5 years. However, it is important to know that under the option of real estate, the applicant must respect a minimum hold of 3 to 5 years, depending on the purchaser. And that, in addition to the investment, the applicant must also pay the government fees. With respect to the cost under the various options, it varies. It varies on the size of the family, For a single applicant, for instance, in a direct government donation, it would be $100,000 US, and for a real estate, it would be $200,000 for a single applicant.
Right. So Your Excellency, in addition to making this investment, what are the eligibility requirements, rather, under the Dominica Citizenship by Investment Program?
There are a number of requirements that one applying to the citizenship must have. You must be 18 years of age minimum. You must be of good character. You must have the funds to make the investment yourself. The requirements of good character is essential for the applicant process, as all applicants must pass a stringent due diligence. The applicant must be found to be a bona fide applicant with no criminal record. The applicant must also pass a reputable risk of Dominica, and the source of funds must be checked and verified by our committee who look at the investments as well.
So those are among some of the most important due diligence processes in place for South African citizens to qualify, I take it, Your Excellency?
Yes, they are.
Right. Tell me, is there anything else our South African viewers should know before applying, Your Excellency?
The due diligence process in Dominica is rather quite stringent, and in fact, it is multi-tiered. We have a multi-tier program that is conducted both internally and externally. In Dominica, first we have the authorized agents must know their clients and must go through the know your client process. They must submit with us a report on world check for investments. The agents, we only accept clients through our agents. The agents must know the client and must submit a world check on the client. Then the the client is sent out to for check by our regional security for intelligence, both for criminal checks and for financial checks. The client is then sent out for due diligence by an external agent. That is, we use the best due diligence firms in the world for checking our clients, and they must do on the ground, boots on the ground checks of all clients. Then the unit would go through the application process and look and have an assessment of what came back from all the different checks. External vetting are mandatory, and they are done by firms who are well trained, and they're used by the best banks and best financial institutions and governments around the world for doing so. Further review is done by our office on all applicants that would come back to us. Of course, for us, the applicant must come from a country that is allowed. There are a few countries where we do not allow applications to come from, and those include North Korea and Iran and Sudan also. But if an applicant comes from one of those countries, or is from these countries and reside out of the countries with no ties and no economic ties with the countries for 10 years, they are allowed to apply. But again, we will do further due diligence, enhanced due diligence on each of those applicants who are from these countries but do not reside there.
Your Excellency, there'd be many viewers watching this who are actually wealth advisors or tax experts in South Africa, for example. Do you think there might be a business opportunity for them to potentially act as agents for this program?
I think there is a tremendous opportunity out here. One, I know that there are many South Africans who would be interested in becoming citizens of Dominica. And as the Prime Minister mentioned before, there are actually some who do not just become citizens, but they've actually moved to and are living here in Dominica. But to become an agent, the government, first and foremost, we do not accept applications directly as a government. We go only through authorized agents. The authorized agent must be based in Dominica and subject to the laws of Dominica. An agent in Dominica would then work with a promoter in South Africa or anywhere else. So a wealth advisor, a lawyer, somebody involved in the travel industry could link with one of our agents on the site and work with them in attracting or getting South African citizens to be citizens of Dominica. I believe that there's a tremendous market in South Africa, as the opportunity given by being a Dominican are tremendous. You could travel to more than 3/4 of the world using a Dominican passport. So there are opportunities here in South Africa or for South Africans here in Dominica, and the wealth managers in South Africa, there's already market available in South Africa. So we look forward to welcoming them and working with them. It is always our pleasure to invite people. We could hear from you, hear your experiences, so we can work together to improve the program and meet the needs of the South African investor.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I just want to remind our viewers at this point that if you're finding this webinar helpful, you're welcome to comment below. And if you have any questions, please do post them in the live chat. As you know, there'll be a CS Global representative who will be answering those questions for you during the time of our broadcast. Mr. Prime Minister, back to you. I see one of the main drivers of South African interest in citizenship of Dominica is its expansive global mobility offering. That's clearly attractive to potential investors.
I agree entirely. Dominicans benefit from extensive global mobility. We can travel with increased global mobility to around 160 countries and territories worldwide. 40% more, I believe, destinations than South African citizens can travel to currently. We are therefore in a strong position to build global businesses and create strong ties with international communities. And additionally, citizenship investment program has been scrutinized by different independent institutions, and Dominica is constantly recognized for its rigorous due diligence processes, as I said earlier in the interview. And so in respect to global mobility, you have no better choice than Dominica. And this speaks to the integrity of our passport, the security of our passport, and also the relationship which we enjoy with many countries. For example, recently we signed a visa-free agreement with the People's Republic of China. And as we all know, this is not an offer which the PRC gives out willingly and easily. And this has been done in Dominica's case because of of course, the relationship which exists between our two countries, but very importantly, the security of our program, the security of our passport, and the reputation which our citizenship investment program enjoys globally. And so where South Africans are concerned, this is an ideal opportunity to allow for mobility. Many of your children would like to go to schools in different parts of the world. They will need visas to go to the schools sometimes, and they will be unable to attract a visa, obtain a visa to go to these countries. Businessmen who have to go out to a country to sign a multi-million-dollar agreement can't wait for 2 weeks or can't wait for 6 months for a visa. And so we, as a small nation, as part of the United Nations, this is our contribution to the world. This is our contribution to the world, allowing for mobility, allowing for access, allowing for opportunities. We're not saying that we're better than any other country. We're not saying this at all. All we are saying is that we are part of a global community, and we recognize and respect citizens of every country. And there are some countries where people have no state to belong to, or no citizenship to call their own. And how do these people go about life? And how do they create opportunities for the children, for themselves? And so Dominica offers this mobility, and we're very mindful of the relationships that we have and the mobility that we enjoy as a nation. And this is why we place so much emphasis on the due diligence processes to ensure that the security and the reputation of a program is maintained. And so we welcome our South African brothers and sisters to apply. It's a golden opportunity to increase mobility and business opportunities, and to bring create this peace of mind that so many citizens across the world, including South Africa, would like. And just to say on the record too, we in Dominica, we condemn the action taken by certain countries against the South Africans in terms of the travel ban as a result of the Omicron. We felt that it was discriminatory, We felt that it was wrong and unjustified. And in a time of this pandemic, we all must work together. We must not let any country feel that they are less of a nation than others. And so, if any South African would like to take a vacation at this moment, then they could come to Dominica, because you are welcome to come to Dominica, notwithstanding the global pandemic. Our borders are open. We have not closed our borders since 2020, and there's no sign of it closing anytime soon. We have managed the pandemic very well, and you can enjoy the beaches. You can enjoy the rainforest. You can enjoy the waterfalls. You can move around freely in Dominica, and certainly you won't be stopped at our border at all. You'll be welcome with an open arm and with a loving heart, and say welcome to our brothers and sisters from South Africa. And of course, we could play a game of cricket while you're in Dominica.
That's a relief to hear, Mr. Prime Minister. On that issue of your global mobility offering, do you have any plans to further strengthen that offering in the future?
Oh yes. I believe by the end of 2022, we will see an increase of about 25% of our global mobility. Our onward march is to have global mobility, and mobility to almost every country in the world. And so our target is to increase this by 25% by the end of 2022. And from where I sit, I believe that this is achievable based on our engagements and our discussions with many countries around the world, and the diplomatic relations that we have engendered and we have developed and we have nurtured. And of course, as I said, the scrutiny, because in all of these things, countries will be concerned about their own security, especially with regards to the Citizenship by Investment program. And so what we do is that we open our program up for scrutiny. There's nothing to hide. There's complete transparency. And if any country believes that they can offer us assistance in improving our systems, we are more than willing to receive that technical support and technical advice. And so we will certainly increase our mobility by 25% by the end of 2020. So South Africans who are contemplating seeking a second citizenship, there's no better country than the Commonwealth of Dominica to apply to.
That's very encouraging indeed. Ms. Emmett, South African investors are very familiar with conventional immigration routes, like moving to Australia or Portugal, for example. I'm guessing that many people are watching this broadcast right now saying, gosh, I had considered the conventional routes. I'd not even known about Dominica until now. Why should they consider that second citizenship in Dominica, especially when they're weighing up other options right now?
Well, Joanne, many of your viewers will be sitting in South Africa. They're running businesses in South Africa. Their children are going to school in South Africa. So they do not necessarily want to leave the country. All they're looking for is a safety net. And with Australia, for example, you have to uproot and move there with your family. So that's quite a big commitment. And then a program like Portugal, you don't have to spend a huge amount of time there, but there is a process before you get to that citizenship point. And in any event, a lot of people don't realize that they need to speak the language. Now with Dominica, you don't have to give up anything. In fact, all you're doing is just adding to the opportunity and the lifestyle that you currently have. And just to reiterate, some of the benefits of it, you're basically obtaining Dominican citizenship with your plan B with little fuss, no need to uproot your family, and obviously the promise of a successful, prosperous future. So rather physically relocating, for example, to SA, you can sit in SA and obtain the second citizenship. But a couple of other pointers that are important. Dominica has been in existence for decades, so making it one of the world's most recognized programs. And in fact, the Financial Times does a yearly review on citizenship by investment programs. And for 5 years in a row now, Dominica has won first place because it is well respected. It is a jurisdiction that people look at and consider in high regard. And as someone looking for a second citizenship, you want to know that it's not just the process that you're undergoing that's it's easy and seamless, but in the long term, for the future of you and your family, you've got to make sure that there's that security as well. And just to kind of cover a couple of the points again, the family inclusiveness is quite important for South Africans because you can include your siblings, your grandparents, your parents, and obviously your dependent children up to the age of 30. So it makes it a very inclusive program, which many of the other residence and citizenship programs don't allow. So these are important aspects. And then, of course, let's not forget the investment threshold. A lot of people don't realize that in rand terms, only 1.5 million rand to apply for Dominican citizenship as a single applicant. You can't buy a one-bedroom flat in the metropolitan areas in South Africa for that amount of money. So when you're talking about hedging your risks, I think this is a pretty good investment.
Yeah, our viewers will clearly have a lot of questions, and I want to say to you, if you're watching now, wherever you are, at home, at work, whatever the case is, if your interest has been piqued by our discussion, you probably want a little bit more information. Take a look at this.
You are used to beauty, fresh air, the sun on your face, long days spent enjoying the outdoors. What if you could have all that and feel safe, secure, relaxed, in the knowledge that your family is cared for? Give your children and grandchildren the future they deserve. Put family first. Put happiness first. Start your journey to freedom today.
Well, that certainly adds to the information that is available on the second citizenship option in Dominica. Ms. Emmett, some final thoughts to leave our viewers with. Why a second citizenship in Dominica as opposed to any other destination on offer? I think you've spoken about that in a little bit of detail already. But I have to ask you, I mean, many South Africans would not have had the opportunity to travel to that country. We've heard a lot about the culture of it, the lifestyle from the Prime Minister, and of course from His Excellency as well, the Ambassador. But from somebody who's lived in South Africa, who's grown up in South Africa, who's been partially educated in South Africa, from the perspective of a South African, why Dominica on a most personal level?
Well, Dominica holds a very special place in my heart. It is honestly one of the most incredibly beautiful places that I've ever been to. But over and above that, there is such a warmth and welcoming atmosphere when you get there. And I think that's quite important in a world where we're trying to break up community because of COVID. And in Dominica, there is this deep sense of community where you get a sense of belonging. And I think from a very personal perspective, that's what struck me when the first time I actually went to Dominica. Secondly, I think from a leadership perspective, the government have been very forthright with their people. They have made good decisions. The leadership has been in place for the past 2 decades and made wise choices for their citizens. So under the leadership of the Prime Minister, the country has witnessed prosperity, growth, development, and opportunity. What more can you ask for? So I think when one is looking for, that second citizenship, you need to answer those questions. And it would be remiss of any of the viewers watching today to not consider getting a second citizenship, and why not from such an incredibly beautiful, welcoming place as Dominica.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Emmett. Mr. Prime Minister, bringing you back here, one aspect that I haven't spoken about, but that you touched on earlier, is the devastation wrought by Hurricane Maria on Dominica in September 2017. We know that it was a horrific event for your country, yet it's shown immense determination in building back. You've wisely managed the recovery projects, both from a goal-setting point of view and a financial point of view. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, you're also committed to mitigating climate change in the way you built back. I found that really interesting.
Thank you for this question. The impact of Hurricane Maria in 2017 was severe on the economy of Dominica and the livelihoods of our citizens. Several of our recovery projects have been financed through the funds made available from the Citizenship by Investment program and are built in order to achieve our goal of becoming a climate resilient nation. After the hurricane, and recognizing the devastation, I do not want the world to remember us by the disaster, but more so by our response and defining a vision for our country, recognizing the impacts of climate change, and what can we do to place us in a more resilient position in the event of these disasters occurring again. And this is why we declare to the world through the United Nations our desire, our goal, our vision to build a resilient nation. So over time, we believe this will help in creating a diversified, sustainable, and resilient economy that can effectively respond to the realities of a highly competitive global environment. And so we are seeing a significant investment in housing through what we dubbed the housing revolution, where we have built in excess of 5,000 homes, resilient homes for people. We build in resilience in agriculture. We build in resilience in our health system by the construction of smart hospitals and smart health clinics. We build in resilience in our infrastructure. We build in resilience in our financial systems and our fiscal policies through legislation to ensure that we can withstand external shocks and shocks created by natural disasters and, of course, this pandemic. And this is why we have been able to fare better than most in this pandemic because of our fiscal policies and our legislation that helps us mitigate against external shocks and shocks caused by a pandemic or a natural disaster. And of course, I said there are many other reconstruction projects, new schools that have been built, ports, airports, and seaports, investing heavily in tourism, and also advancing our efforts in the accommodation for medical students in Dominica, and also a national library that would provide all of the technology that one can think of in the present day, in allowing our children, our young people to have access to information to enhance their learning. So resilience building, and this is something I would wish to suggest to all nations in the world, because every nation, whether you're in the G7 or you're in the 77 plus China, we all are subjecting ourselves, have been subjected to the impacts of climate change. And it's important for us to build resilience to mitigate against the natural disasters. In Africa, you have extreme drought that is impacting livelihoods and lives. And how do we respond to this? You have dramatic flooding taking place in Europe and in Latin America. You have the hurricanes taking place in the Caribbean, and of course the monsoons in Asia, and all of these things are becoming more severe because of the impact on the environment, the causes of climate change, and while COP26 was a bit successful as compared to others, it did not achieve the objectives which countries like ours, Dominica and South Africa and African continent, would have liked. And what do we do for ourselves and by ourselves? And so we have decided things which we have control over in Dominica that we should put in place to help ourselves better weather the storms of natural disasters and the impacts of climate change. And it's unfortunate that the countries which have it within their power to change the course of things for us are not taking the kind of concrete actions that they should take to ensure a better future for countries like South Africa and Dominica. So resilience building is critical. This hurricane in 2017 was really devastating. But as I said, we wanted people not to remember us for this disaster, but to remember us for our response. And I think we have gotten the attention of the global community in large measure, and I say so with the greatest sense of humility, we have become the poster child in terms of resilience building, in terms of our reaction to climate change, and to our advocacy and activism in respect to climate change. And this is what we'll continue to do, not only for ourselves, but for the global community. And we are very passionate about it, because the reality is we have no choice in the matter. We have no choice in the matter in terms of climate change and its impact, but we can do things by ourselves, for ourselves, and of course with the help of the international community, to build greater resilience in all spheres of our society, in all spheres of our lives, and in all spheres of the management of our countries.
Your Excellency, just picking up on that thought that the Prime Minister brought in, this idea of building back better after the hurricane's destruction, it seems to allude to a real sense of kindness and unity among Dominica's population. Now, that may be perceived as a soft issue, but I can tell you that South Africans are really looking for that now. We're searching for a kindness and a sense of unity and social cohesion in our country right now amongst our people. Would you say that that's a fair observation from an outsider who's looking into the Republic of Dominica from where I stand and assessing the way you have worked together in these difficult times?
I think this is a very accurate way of putting it. The population has shown a very remarkable sense of cohesiveness. In fact, 2 years after the hurricane that we speak about, the population rewarded the Prime Minister with 18 of the 21 seats in Parliament, because the people have bought into the idea of building back better, to ensure that in the future, Dominica will be protected from any such devastation in terms of the destruction of our infrastructure and our natural beauty. So yes, the population came together. The population has supported the Prime Minister and his government for the solid leadership and for their foresight in building back better. It is not normal that a government would increase seats after such a long time in government. But in this case, because of the foresight and the vision of the Prime Minister and his government, there's a unity in purpose, unity in people, in building back the world's first climate resilient nation. And that is, of course, following the very humble and kind leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you so much for that, Your Excellency. And that, I think, is a thought that we're going to leave you with. That's the point where we will wrap up our discussion for today. I want to thank our panel for joining us. Merci beaucoup, Dr. the Honorable Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, His Excellency Ambassador Emmanuel Nanthan, also Director of the Citizenship by Investment Unit, and Ms. Micha, Emmett, CEO of CS Global Partners. I want to thank each of you for your contribution today. And thank you, of course, to you, our viewers, for joining us. I hope you found this discussion insightful, and if you have found it interesting, please comment, share, subscribe to all the channels. And if you have questions, go ahead and visit the official Dominica Citizenship by Investment website. Let me give you that website address, www.cbiu.gov.dm. I'll give it to you again, www.cbiu.gov.dm, or you can contact them at info@csglobalpartners.com, info@csglobalpartners.com. Of course, the link to this webinar and further information on the BDTV rebroadcast of the discussion will be included in the thank you mailer, which will be sent out after the event, so please do keep an eye out for that. A special thank you to CS Global Partners for their partnership in this event today. From me, Joanne Joseph, and the team, take care. Bye-bye.